What's up, my big dick cowboys? What a weird looking Game Boy, am I right? Anyway, as you can see here, I've got a perfectly working Nintendo 64. We're gonna see if I can't fix that. So, the idea today is to take this poor, used, and abused Nintendo 64 that I picked up for entirely too cheap, and we're gonna shove some really expensive mods in it and see if we can't get it outputting some minty perfect pixels. So anyway, what we have here, what you're looking at, is the regular video output on a standard Nintendo 64. Now, some models are a little bit better than others, but for the most part, the differences are pretty negligible. But what you get on a bog standard N64 is composite output. So what you're seeing is the best that we can do with that composite output, more or less. Now, do keep in mind that I do have this plugged into one of the absolute cheapest HDMI capture cards that exists on the market. But between the capture card and the N64, I do have a RetroTink 5X Pro, and that is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here and is cleaning up a lot of the image, doing us a lot of favors. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, I think this is a sufficiently good comparison for what we can expect. I'm gonna reset it just so it goes through that opening sequence again and make sure I get that in the recording itself. And yeah, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna not dismiss that menu on the RetroTink, so you get to stare at input composite the whole time. But anyway, this is gonna be a somewhat extensive process getting this mod kit installed, and I am a little bit out of my league here. This is very far off the beaten path from what I usually do, so you'll have to forgive me in advance. I know there's going to be some awful camera angles on account of the fact that I had to move my phone so much higher than it usually is just to fit the whole Jesus thing in the shot, and I'm going to end up taking half the thing out of the shot every time I'm messing with screws. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's talk about what we got. I'm going to go ahead and flip this off here. I have a Japanese copy of Pokemon Stadium because I have a Japanese Nintendo GameCube. Now, for those that are unaware, I am actually might as well leave that out here. Japanese GameCubes, Nintendo 64, you can identify by the label on the bottom. There's a region code right there, and then all of the text is in Japanese. But aside from the label on the unit and a physical lockout within the cartridge slot, a US game, I'm gonna keep doing that, a US N64 and a Japanese N64 are just about identical. There are a few other little differences. Actually, I'm not sure if any of those differences extend beyond the casing. But either way, this particular mod is compatible with both, and I will be converting this to a region-free model while we have it apart. I'll show you more on that later. But specifically, if we look at the game here, this is a Japanese game, and then my only other game for Nintendo 64, San Francisco Rush Extreme Racing. If we flip these over and take a look at the back, you can see realistically the differences between the two regions, and it's just the keys. That's it. Again, the label is in a different language, but this was intended for Japanese domestic market, US domestic market, so there was no point in making the label readable in both. I'm not 100% sure why they went with the region lock, but if you want to bypass it on a per cart basis, you can literally just pop the back off this thing. You don't even have to put another back on. This is San Francisco Rush. We'll just pop that screw out. Pop that screw out. Jam that in there with the back off. And what do you know? works just fine. And that is the case with just about every Japanese and US games. You can even see that you got the back off USA back. But there you go. Anyway, enough about that. Again, the conversion is real easy. If you want to do just one game, again, just grab the back and throw it on your cart. There's no sense digging apart your N64, but if you're digging apart your N64 anyway, might as well make it region free. The European units are a different story, however, and that has to do with the PAL screen standards. The N64 just outputs at a different refresh rate, and they're not quite compatible. I believe there are ways to convert them, but I don't know, and that's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're doing here anyway. So let us continue with the analysis here. Just got a standard multi-AV plug for this thing. Don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly certain the RGB cables just straight up don't work unless you have your N64 RGB modded, so you're stuck with composite until you modify the thing. But these are pretty standard up until the Wii. Pretty much every Nintendo console uses one of these, so if you have one that has composite, it'll work on NES, Super NES, N64, GameCube, and any other host of dev consoles that Nintendo made. But anyway, easy peasy, universal. Power supply. Let's talk power supply. This is a Japanese unit, and thus it came with a Japanese power supply. Always, always, always when importing consoles, look at the input of the power supply. The output is going to be the same regardless of whatever region. They're all going to take 12 volts and 3.3 volts, but the input is going to be different. This is labeled as rated 100 volt AC at 50 or 60 hertz. I don't have 100 volt power. I have 120 volt power because I'm in the US, so the power is slightly different. Now, I highly recommend not plugging a Japanese power supply into US mains voltage. Do as I say, don't do as I do. Obviously, I did exactly that, and it worked just fine, but this is your mileage may vary, and I really don't recommend it because it is out of spec. Now, it could be that this is a universal power supply and it's just labeled wrong, but I don't know. So that's why I can't recommend it. I did ask someone who knows quite a bit more about these things, someone who's been working with N64s as a hobby for way longer than I've been working with Game Boys. And quote unquote, when I asked them, can I use this? They said to me, I don't know, plug it in, see what happens. And so I did, and it worked, so I went with it. But again, don't recommend it. Get a new power supply, it's just not worth messing with. And this goes for any devices if you're importing, especially if you're importing. Pay attention to what you can and cannot plug into them. I have a bud who has a Panasonic Q whose power supply blew up on him because plugged it into the wrong thing. For those that don't know, those are kind of a pain in the butt to repair. Anyway, almost 10 minutes in, we haven't even started looking at the kit yet. This is what I ordered, this is what I got. This is the UltraHDMI kit from Retroactive or Marshall H, depending on how you know him. His website, Retroactive, I'll probably link it in the description, but if you go to ultrahdmi.net, it'll redirect you there. But anyway, this is what the kit comes with if you order it with the RGB mod as well, which is exactly what I did. And that is this board right here and this ribbon. Otherwise, you get this board, these two foamies, this big ribbon, and this sticker. Depending on where you get one of these kits, it's going to run you anywhere from like 160 to 300. I can tell you the retail price is on the lower end of those, but supply and demand being what they are, make them a little bit harder to come by. Also, the gentleman who makes these does only sell them in bulk. He also only provides support on a reseller basis. So the intent is he's selling this to the people who are selling it to you. He's not directly selling them. And his idea behind that was, I'm just going to sell these to stores, let them mod their own N64s, and then sell the N64. So that's why availability can be difficult and why pricing can be so variable. But it's really not too bad. But this is what you get. This little board does all the magic. We have it plugged into this ribbon, and then we origami and solder this onto the graphics processor of the N64 or the CPU. I'm not sure if we're soldering to an output or an input or what. But either way, this is going to be intercepting the raw video signals coming out of the graphics processor and then converting it to HDMI for our viewing pleasure. What this will not do is this will not upscale any games. They're still going to be rendered at the original N64 resolution, which means anything that looked blocky and pixelated and low poly or low res is still going to look blocky, pixelated, low poly, and low res, but you'll be able to plug it into your HDMI TV, your HD TV, and things will look better than if you would have used something like a RetroTink. And bonus, this is a hell of a lot cheaper than a RetroTink, so if you're only doing the one console, it might be worth considering either picking up a modded console or, you know, putting down the money to mod your own. Anyway, I'm gonna put this all away because now I've got to tear down the console. And before anyone asks, yes, I did kind of pull strings to get one of these. I will share a link in the description to a shop that may or may not be carrying one of these. Well, several of these. But your mileage may vary. Like I said, stock was very difficult on these. I bought the console a good 3 or 4 months before I even had a chance to purchase one of the kits, let alone before I even got the kit. So yeah, I'll send a link. And again, I bought this with my own money. This isn't a paid review or anything. I just wanted to do it. Anyway, enough is enough. Let's get on with it. Let's tear this thing down, shall we? Nintendo, in their infinite wisdom, decided to use a full custom driver. But if you have an iFixit kit, you have that driver already. It is the Gamebit screwdriver, but the big one, not the little one. Alright, I already lost track of screws, and I have a feeling I even dropped one. But let's see, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess that's right. And 6, yeah. If there's a sticker, I believe you're supposed to remove it. But otherwise, you can just pop that whole thing out, and the expansion pack or jumper pack, whichever you have installed, should pop out with the shell. Nothing fancy. Set that aside. Oh, if you want to do region-free mod, once you've got the top off, you need to pop this plate out and pop these pegs out. I suppose I should do that first, shouldn't I? Otherwise, I'm totally going to forget. And once I get frustrated with this install, I'll never remember to go back. So let's do it now. 2 screws, comes right off. I already forgot. Okay. So this is the side where we need to shave these down. You can get replacement, whatever you want to call it. I think I have some, but you can see exactly how that key interfaces with the shell. But if you want a region-free mod, just shave these down. I don't know, cut them out with a Dremel, cut them out with flush cutters, just cut them out. The idea is you want to get them completely cleared so that you can insert any region cart there. But I am going to circle back to that. Got some case modding to do. I will do everything at the same time. Alright, once we've got the top off, this is where it gets interesting. So we need to take out 16-ish screws, and not all of them are the same size. So if you have a organizer for your screws, now is definitely the time to use it. I don't, so I'm just hoping that I can remember. Where they go. Alright, what's next? This one. What am I forgetting? These two. Alright, that ain't too bad. Looks like there's only 3 different sizes. Or 4 different sizes. Good lord. The metal into metal screws, the plastic into plastic screws, short metal into plastic, long metal into plastic, and then these little ones, so I guess that's 5. These little ones are going to be real hard to mix up though. Boom! And then it comes out, just like that. Careful of your little metal bits. If you flip this around, you'll lose these. They're not too important unless you want to be able to screw in a expansion to this thing. And since those never actually officially came out, they're just not too important. Yeah, I know there's dev kits and whatnot. Most people won't get to do that though. Okay. Next, I guess, while you have it apart, now's as good a time as any to clean it, in which case you would be removing these. Keep track of them, or don't. I'm not your mom. But while the console's apart, it's the best time as ever to clean it. I'm not going to bother because of who I am as a person. Or rather, I will clean it, just not now. Never had one of these apart. This is neat. Okay. Let us continue. The instructions have us filing the shell first, but I think I'm going to do the soldering first. it looks like... Do we have to remove the rest of these screws, or are these just holding the heatsink to the heatsink? Oh, that may or may not be. I don't know that this whole assembly has to come apart, but I see a screw. I removed the screw. I can't help it. It's compulsive. At least all 10 of these are the same. And then there's these 2 black ones. This is literally just sheet metal for extra thermal mass, shielding, potentially for thermal mass, but likely just for EMI. And then this is the main heatsink, I believe. Slash shield. And then our heat blocks are just stuck down on the CPU and PPU. That doesn't look factory. What do you guys think? If it is factory, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experience with N64s. Could be wrong. Doesn't matter too greatly. All right, so we did sufficient testing of the unit to make sure that it actually worked beforehand, so that after I solder it, if it stops working, I know that it definitely wasn't my fault and it was nothing that I did. Okay. It's a nice and clean day. Let us do the fun part. So this gets attached to this chip here. Not quite like that. Let's double check the alignment. I think it goes like that. I'll bring that in. Nice and tight. These will come off, but I'll leave it on. I don't think it's going to be in the way. Not the cleanest console though. So this needs to line up. I had that upside down. This needs to line up this side towards the top. We have the long bit towards the front of the console. And then we put the leftmost pin 1 pin away from the little dot down there. I'll hold this up so you can see the 1 indicator and then the dot. Dots are every 5 pins, and we want this starting on the 6th pin. I believe they're every 5 pins, don't quote me on that. But either way, we want it 1 away from the dot. Going just like that. Alright. And to get this installed here, I think think the easiest way is to tape it down. Alright. This ain't too bad. Load up some more solder, load up some more flux. Use my tweezers to push that nice and flat. That ain't too bad. Some flux to keep the shorts out. All right. I think that's good. That is not an easy solder joint to do, but I think that is exactly what we want to see. All of the joints, let me grab my tweezers here, should look solid from the ribbon side to the pin side with no shorts between any pins. And I'm just going to give each of these a quick poke. See, these middle four right here, and these four for that matter, don't look like they have enough solder on them. So I am going to redo those joints now instead of trying to find out later why I'm having problems. All right, I think that's it. Better, it still ain't perfect. I'm gonna have to put that under the microscope later, or we'll just test it and see if it works and see what happens. First thing, let me double check for shorts. No, I'll do that after I finish all the soldering. I suppose it would make more sense to do that before finishing with the soldering, but here we are. Alright, we need to give this guy a little fold because it needs to hit that solder pad for that capacitor. This guy also gets a little fold in a similar manner to hit that solder pad for that capacitor. A little bit of flux. That joint nice and tinned. There we go. Sorry, I know both of those were probably hidden by my hand, but that is just about what we want to see there. Could be better, could be worse, but should work. Alright, now we need to get this floppy bit taken care of. And I forget where this goes, so let me consult the guide. So, I think I got it figured out. I should have done a little bit more reading on exactly what I got because... Oops. But anyway, this is the hardware 2 version of the UltraHDMI. Also, I just realized if you look at the cable, you see this notch in the top right here. And that gives you a nice, convenient place where you know you can crease the cable because you want that notch in the valley of your fold. But anyway, there we go. That gets soldered. We want to solder that to pin 16 of this PIF chip. Pin 16, you notice we have 1, 14, 15, 28, so 16 is one up from the bottom there. Get that tinned, perhaps. I'm not having a good time with this soldering iron tip. Maybe I would have been better off with the K series. Oh well. That is user error, I believe. Alright, so we want to solder the long one. this side of the ribbon cable ain't exactly one size fits all, because there are multiple different console variants. I don't know what it's designed for, if it's designed for any of them, or just like the best average, something that works with all of them. Or maybe I'm just doing it wrong. I don't know. Alright. That goes there. There we go. And then this second one, I believe, is the reset line, which is optional, but we're going to solder it anyway because, I mean, we're already doing a bunch of other soldering. What the hell? What's one more? So starting with firmware 1.06, which I believe my firmware is much newer than that, considering this document is from 2017 and is for hardware version 1, whereas I have hardware version 2, HW2. So we're probably good. That goes to pin 27 of the PIF, which is right about where it's hanging out. Notice this top pin is labeled pin 28, which means we want to go one pin down from that. So everything was going fine. I was just being needlessly cautious. Probably easier to solder this pin first. Alright, and that should be it as far as the soldering goes. In fact, oh wait, no, I still gotta do the rigba. Alright, so now I'm gonna flip it over and I guess let us try the RGB kit, which is going to be this thing. That goes just like that. So it looks like the pin numbering on the little 6 pin here is the same as the 12 pin connector itself. So you see one is on the bottom left, one is on the bottom left. We want to keep that all the same. Alright. It's enough messing around. Let's get this done. Oh, that last pin is a ground pin. That's why it's giving me so much trouble. So yeah, it was heat related. Specifically, there just was not enough heat getting put into that joint. Okay. This is much better now. My inexperience with my J-tip is really showing, isn't it? Alright, I'm pretty sure this gets folded like that. Again, we can see the notches in the ribbon. Fold something like that. Boom. Again, that part's optional, but if you ordered it, you might as well install it. Boom! Look at that. Let us do a quick double check for shorts, because blowing up the one power supply I have sounds like a really fun time. All right, so I have my multimeter in continuity mode. I'm gonna jam it on this ground. I'm pretty sure that is a ground. Yep, and that is a ground. Yep, and we will check. I don't know which is which. I'm guessing that's 5 volt and that's 3.3. Either way, no shorts to ground, except where there is supposed to be a short, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pins. Fairly certain those are supposed to be short to ground. We'll find out. Alright, so next up we have 2 options for the trim, for the shell, housing, whatever you want to call it. The first option is, I'm going to set this aside. I should be safe right there. Alright. I'm also going to take these out. So the board goes in the console just about like this. It fits nicely in between all these screw posts. It routes. Everything is good. But the thing is, we have to cut a notch for the, whatchamacallit, the mini HDMI port. Alternatively, there are STLs out there. You can get a little spacer that you put in down here so that the board still sits flat in the same place, but then it sits above the bottom half of the shell, and then you have to get a one of these 3D printed or cut a notch in this part. But we're just going to cut a notch in the bottom shell. I don't think it should be that big of a deal. It is extremely important that we not only get the notch in the right place, but the right size, because the notch serves as strain relief for the HDMI cable. So how we're gonna mark this out, so I'm gonna take a tip from the instructions there. Who'd ever thought reading the instructions would be useful? Get the board mostly lined up where it needs to go. Take my knife here and just make a small mark exactly where the edge of the port is. And that is my outer bounds. I do not want to cut any more than that. Pull that out of there. And so the next step is to take my needle files and just file this whole thing away. But because I have power tools, I'm going to use them. I'm going to use my rotary tool on a stand, basically a Dremel and a drill press. And I have some milling bits that I think will make nice short work of that and keep it nice and straight. So I will be right back and I will get that done. But if you're doing it by hand, grab yourself a set of these. It's going to be your best friend. Real cheap from Harbor Freight. Just small needle files, and you sit there and you just carve away at the plastic until you get something that's the right shape and the right size. You take off a little bit of material at a time, because you can always take off more material, but you can't take off less. Alright, so now I will be right back. I am going to go get that trimmed. I will be right back. Right, so here's the progress I made. I didn't cut out the whole thing, just cut out a little bit. Well, most of it, I guess. My intent was to finish up with the files. So as you may or may not be able to tell because of the angle that my lighting is at, you can see the notch I made, maybe. There we go. The notch I made and the cut I made are not the same. The notch, again, is the outer bounds. We do not want to cut past that. But you want to cut up to that point. Also, I highly recommend not doing this at your desk because it creates a lot of plastic debris. But this is the idea. You just sit here with your file, take out small chunks at a time, and then check your progress. If you can't see the line you made, you're too close. Back off and reevaluate. Alright, I'd say we are just about there. Let's do a test fit. And boom. Cut a little bit too low, but that's okay. It's not too bad. Take the black dense foam and place it inside the white guides right here, more or less. And we take that. Oh, before we do that, let's clean out some of that swarf I made earlier. And with that foam on the bottom there, it should just sit right in there. Just like that. And while I was on the Dremel earlier, I cut out my notches so that I could put in both a US game and a Japanese game. And hopefully I cut out the correct side. Ooh. If I recall correctly, there were two black screws holding that in. But the question is, where did they go? I set them aside because I am a forward thinker. play Rush just fine, or continue to play Japanese games without having to do some freaky deaky stuff with the cart. I'm gonna go back to this again, and I'm thinking at this point our next step is going to be to reinstall all the 8 million shields that I removed. So this big flat one, I believe, goes on the bottom. Just like that. And this one gonna need to go out the top here. Leave that nice and loose. Ooh, nice and crunchy. One screw in over each heatsink to hold everything in place, just for the moment. Make sure not to cross thread those. Goes in there, doesn't it? Yep. How did that go? I feel like it goes just like there. And then if I recall correctly, this all goes something like this. I lost that screw. I will find it later. Couldn't have gone far. All right. You know, based on how dirty this thing was from the outside, I expected more than a little bit of dust. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Just not quite what I expected. I don't think that's the correct screw. Alright, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that last black screw and jam it in sometime later. I don't know what happened to it. Does that screw into plastic? That does. We'll hold off on that. This one, however, can go in right now. And if all went well, we should be good. This is going to be a bit of a pain. I believe that goes right there. Now we need to get... Does that plug into this board? Yeah, there's no way it doesn't. Let's see. Yes, it does. It goes pins down. Jam that in there, and then we'll just leave that dangling for now. Yep, pins up is fine. Cool. Flip this over, and then this needs to fold this way. We should have folded it before putting the shielding on, but we'll be okay. And then this needs to reach around and plug into this. Ooh, but first, let's replace all the missing hardware, like screw terminals and the LED light pipe. That plugged in. I'm gonna try and maneuver this, but this is awful fiddly. This is folded like that. And then I guess needs to be folded sort of a Z shape. So you can come back. Seat that. But it's not exactly a convenient size, shape, or position to try and maneuver. Actually, I think this might work better if I just set it down. go. There we go. There we go. Alright. Now this needs to go in. Does that go on top or on behind? There we go. And we're there. Look at that. Bada bing, bada boom. Cool, let's do some partial reassembly and try it out. Try not to cross thread those. Little ones in. And I totally forgot where the two long ones go. I think they go, what, probably next to the cart slot. But because I have forgotten, I'm just gonna not put them in right now. Just gonna chuck them across my desk instead. We don't need all the screws. I just want enough that if I manipulate this thing, you know, I don't send parts flying. Especially since I lost a few parts already anyway. Oh yeah, those must go by the cartridge slot. What am I missing? Those two screws and that screw, I think. Oh yeah, that's fine. Those are definitely the cartridge slot screws. Cool. Here we go. Here we go. Try it out. Don't forget your expansion pack. It won't work at all without either an expansion pack or a jumper pack inserted. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let me get... We're going to try it on regular AV out. Without a game. But I do think a cartridge, or not a cartridge, a controller might be useful. Even though you can't even see it. And let's try it out. Nice! Don't know what, if any, you saw. I got nothing. So let's figure out why now, I guess. I am so incredibly disappointed because my error is so incredibly stupid, and I'm sure all the people who know N64s inside and out know exactly what I did. But I'm gonna leave it in because it's a very easy mistake to make. See the transfer pack, or the memory expansion pack? This is the back. This is the front. Ta-da. Yeah, it was that simple. Let me pause for a moment and get this thing put back together. So I've got it mostly reassembled. We're gonna try again this time a little bit more intelligently. Gonna get a controller plugged in. Transfer pack. Expansion pack. Notice the heatsink area goes to the back, not to the front. Very important. Very important. Alright. That is recording. That is going to be a pain in the butt to sync. Such is life. There goes nothing. I don't know if I'm supposed to get anything without a game. Hang on. I'm not, but let's see. Instructions say test console with the game plugged in. So let's try it with the game plugged in. Boots up. That is not looking good. Something is very wrong with that. Alright, so it's probably a short with my ribbon here, because that is not what that is supposed to look like. It's close though. It's very close. Right. Alright, so now we are swapping out the Retro Tink for just straight HDMI. There's the bottom there. And this goes into my capture card. Turn on with no game. Let's see if we get the OSD, which we should. With Z, D-pad right, C right, our trigger, and boom! There's my OSD. How about that, boy? Alright, let me pop a game in there. I don't know that I actually have to configure anything through the OSD, at least not without fixing this first. So, oh, that's interesting. HDMI looks fine, it's just my composite that looks bad. Oh man, does that look good though. Holy crap. Oh wait, we were supposed to do something. Hang on. We're gonna do self-test. And no wiring issues found, so I guess we're good to go. I don't know, I hear audio, I see video. I see that weird flashing at the top of the screen, I don't know what that's about. But... can I close? Thanks. Thanks, Marshall. P69. No, we don't want to change that. Stay. This is why you usually use the OSD without a game. Zero lag. I'm not gonna mess with any of these settings too much. If you guys are actually interested in the settings, I'm sure Retro RGB or My Life in Gaming has a much better video on this than I ever could put out. I'm just a hobbyist, man. Very out of my league. Analog out. Ah. Hang on. We're gonna set that to off. And then we're gonna try the retro tink again. It should still be plugged in. I just gotta swap out the HDMI cable. And that looks so much better than it did before. The problem was that we had conflicting signals. Okay, so that. What was that in? Analog out, yeah. We can switch this to any of these new options, component, RGB, or RGB, if I had a cable to plug into that, but I do not actually have a component AV multi-out cable to test that with, so I am just going to leave it off for the time being, because if I'm likely to use this at all, if I don't use it over HDMI, I will be using it over composite, so I will leave that off. Again, we're not going to mess with that. Preset list, not going to mess with that. In-game reset. We can turn that on, because that is wired up. In-game reset, Z start, right trigger AB. Z start, right trigger AB. Did it reset? Hey! How cool is that? Oh, that's so cool. Alright, so we can do regular integer scaling. So regular integer scaling is scaling the pixels by an integer. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. We don't have enough pixels available in HDMI. I believe it's running at 720p. I can probably push it to 1080 with a better capture card, but my capture card only does 720. We don't have enough pixels to get it full screen without having the black borders on the edges. What we can do instead of that is we can go to the next best number and then scale back. So let's say we can just barely fit, or just barely can't fit 3 times scaling. We can do like 2.75 and that hits the edges nicely, but 3.0, there's just not enough pixels. So what we do is we scale it up 3.0 using integer methods, and then scale it back using bilinear. It results in a much cleaner look, I guess, compared to just upscaling it 3x by integer in the first place, or 2.75 by bilinear. Holy cow, I can't speak, I'm so sorry. I don't know what fraction does. I don't know what the difference is. I'm gonna leave it on integer plus though. I think that looks good with what I'm looking at least. Video deblur, leave that on audio because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Fast interlaced, increases latency in interlaced modes. Bypassing VSync may cause tearing artifacts. I'm still seeing quite a lot of interlacing issues. I don't know if that's my capture card though. So we're just gonna leave that on yes. This is brand new firmware, by the way, guys, too. Or at least it was when I ordered this. I don't know, it's been sitting on my desk for a while. I don't know that there's much else that I will want to mess with. We can do scan lines. No, I don't really see anything. Let's try Rush. Rush, I can actually play. Oh, my controller pack might not be inserted properly. Story of my life. It worked that time. Got one in there. You can get that new one from 4-Layer Tech. They use the DRAM instead of SRAM. I was going to convert this one to FRAM, but I just realized that I don't care.
Three, two, one, run!
So again, you might be looking at this noticing, wow, it still looks like crap. Well, yeah, it's still an N64. It looks a heck of a lot better though. Oh my god. Nah. I was hoping there wouldn't be a big pause menu and it would bring me, like it would just freeze the action, that way I can swap out. Because I still got both cables plugged in. Notice though, I have a widescreen capture and I am getting the correct aspect ratio in my capture still. It's padded, you get the correct aspect ratio. Thank you, Marshall, that is excellent work. Excellent work. I'm very impressed with this. Now, honestly, I don't have a big frame of reference as far as what other HDMI kits for the N64 might look like. I don't have a whole big frame of reference on N64 mods in general. This is new to me. I picked it up. I was browsing Yahoo Auctions, as one does, and looking at the listings there. I saw, oh, that's a really cheap N64. Even with shipping, I can import that. Shipping, fees, like a quarter of the price they're going for locally. So I bought it. And then by the time it got to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably get a kit or something so I can plug this into literally anything I own. Because at the time I didn't have the RetroTink, and technically I still don't have the RetroTink. It's on loan, it's not mine to keep. That can go away any day now. I just don't have a TV that'll take a composite input. Sue me. If you're still playing on a CRT, there's really no need for something like this, but if you're one of the millions of people who got rid of their CRTs and bought an HD TV, then this is definitely the way to do it. This looks really good. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video though, there's only so much you can do with the original game. It's still going to render at the exact same resolution. It's still going to have the exact same texture quality. Everything's going to look very similar to how it used to look. The difference is the output itself is cleaned up quite a bit. There's no more weird composite artifacts. There's no more poor color quality. I can't play and talk at the same time. I can't play on a good day, let alone if I'm talking. I'm blame it on me talking, but I'm just bad at this game in general. But anyway, yeah, this is it, man. This is cool as heck. Alright, while that's going, I am going to get the old swapperoonie and plug in the analog output again.
What's your name?
And I'm going to try and do the same race.
3, 2, 1, rush!
You can see kind of how blurry everything is. Granted, this is composite. Again, this is not the RGB output that we just modded in. I don't have a way of testing that. I hope it works. I don't know. I'll have to buy a cable and test that out at some point. The original plan was to build this console and sell it, but I don't know if I'm doing that now. And even if I do it, I'm not going to do it without fully testing it. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud while I'm playing. If you're looking really closely at the capture footage, keep in mind that my direct HDMI out and my composite out are both running into the same HDMI capture card, which has frame rate and resolution related issues. I am converting my composite output to HDMI via RetroTink 5X, hence the input composite SDTV SDP 60 Hz up at the top left of the screen. I know you can turn that off. I never do. I always forget, and now that, you know, I'm thinking about it, I'm just gonna leave it up just to bother everyone. And again, this is a console designed to be used with a low resolution CRT. It's going to look best on a CRT no matter what you do to it. No amount of integer scaling and upscaling and smoothing, any filters whatsoever, no amount of filters will ever make games designed to be played on a CRT look good on an HDTV. There's only so much we can do. But hey, it's not so bad, right? Again, this is the composite output. And 64 actually has one of the cleaner composite outputs of all the systems I've plugged into this RetroTink. But don't forget, it's still a RetroTink, $300 worth of hardware, doing some post-processing. And the RetroTink is doing a very admirable job, but there's only so much you can do with composite, so it's still good, but I prefer the HDMI, especially since I'm watching it on a high-def television anyway. Jackboy. Oh, I hope it's capturing the game audio. This is going to be really silent and awkward if it's not. I can hear the game audio, but I don't think it's being recorded, because I have the volume down real low. And word of warning, my capture card does not capture good audio on the best of days. Hey, look at that. I don't know. I'm very pleased with it. This is excellent. Here's a good screen to look at. Look at all the text. Look at all the nimbus. Let me switch that over. Look at how much cleaner that is. Yeah, that's good. I'm very pleased with how this came out. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this off now. If your install did not go as smoothly as mine did, which there were some hurdles to cross thanks to me totally fumbling the transfer pack orientation. Expansion pack, holy cow. It's not a transfer pack. Transfer pack's the one that goes in the controller. If your install did not go as smoothly as mine, there is an LED on the UltraHDMI itself. If we plug this in, turn that on, you can see that little red light there. If your console is on, but no HDMI is plugged in, but everything is working properly otherwise, it should blink just like that, nice slow blink. And then if we plug in an HDMI, it should turn off. That means everything is working. You can troubleshoot that. You can also tell based off of your black screen and if you can try pulling up the OSD, but I'm not going to overlay the capture again. It's too much effort. Unplug that. We go back to the throbbing red LED. Throbbing. And that's it. Now it's time to reassemble. I'm not going to reassemble mine just yet because I still have a little bit more cleanup of the housing that I really think is necessary. Because like I said, I'm still waffling with the idea of selling this thing, and I might as well clean it while it's open. You know, I always say that. But also, I lost a screw, and I need to find that because if I don't, this console will forever miss its screw. But assuming we wanted to reassemble, reassembly is incredibly simple. Pop the top back on, make sure the button's lined up, and throw your 6 screws back in. That's it. It's free real estate. And now we've got our sticker. I believe it is sized to go right there, but we can put it wherever we want. I think I'm going to put it right over here, or we can put it right over here. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah. This sticker is sized to go right down here where the Japanese cereal is, but I have a Japanese cereal there. It's gonna look funny elsewhere, but I'll just put it in this big opening right here. Look at that. And that's how you complete your install. Don't forget your silly little feet when you screw everything back together. And of course, you're not transfer pack. Console won't boot without that. There you go. I like them apples. Thanks for watching, guys. I know that was a super long video, but in my defense, I ramble a lot, and I work slowly while I'm talking, and I work slowly while I'm filming. Combine all of those, and you get a long video. Sorry, I'm a little bit unfamiliar with N64 hardware. It's just kind of par for the course. You gotta be new to everything at some point, right? Overall, I think that went pretty well. Biggest takeaway is that the soldering is not very easy. This is not a user-friendly kit. Unlike building a Game Boy where, you know, it's getting to the point where it's basically Legos. You know, you plug the screen into the screen connector, you plug the other screen connector into the other screen connector, you use the adhesive to seat the screen into the pre-cut shell. It's, hate me if you want, but it is turning into Legos. Like, I'm not trying to gatekeep, I'm just trying to say that this is a much more difficult mod than a lot of the other stuff I show on my channel. I am also very experienced with soldering. I have been doing it for over a decade. I have only become comfortable / competent in my soldering in the last year or two. And, you know, even then, if I compare soldering today from my soldering 6 months ago, I can see an improvement. So I am still just barely getting into this stuff. I'm saying that because if you're looking at my soldering and you go, well, this moron can do it, that looks easy. Yes, I am a moron. And I did make it look easy because I've been doing this so long. Don't buy a $150 UltraHDMI kit and learn to solder with it. That is incredibly foolish. I don't know what N64s are going for right now. I don't think it matters. But an Ultra HDMI kit and an N64. If you ruin both of those due to solder user error, you're out over $200 plus your time. However the hell you want to budget that. So yes, learn to solder on a practice kit. If you're new to soldering, this is not the kit for you. If you want one of these things, I don't know. I don't know where to get one. You can search on eBay. They're gonna be like $400 minimum. I can't vouch for other installers. I'm pretty happy with my install, and once I get this thing physically cleaned, it is something that I would be comfortable putting my name on and selling, which I can't say a lot about. I can't say that about all of my other mods. I won't. Probably not. As you can see, I'm still undecided. But you get the idea. If you're buying from an unknown seller, ask them to show their work. If you're confident in soldering this thing together, the ribbon is really forgiving, I think. More so than a lot of other ribbons in this design. It's not too bad. If you can get your hands on one of the kits, like I said way earlier in the video, hours ago at this point, the kit itself is going to run you at least $150 plus an N64. It's a few $100. It ain't too bad. I purchased my kit out of pocket. This wasn't gifted to me by anyone. This was just something I wanted to do. I wanted to have fun with. But I believe that I have a somewhat reliable link to where you can get more kits if you want. I say somewhat reliable because I have no idea what stock is going to look like. Excuse me, I have no idea what demand is going to look like. I know exactly what the stock currently looks like, but you know, if I publish this video and you guys go buy all 10 or 20 of them or however the heck many there are, then you know, I'm up here looking like a liar. I don't know. I will try and put more up-to-date information in the video. I'm trying not to commit to anything in the video because I'll put the more up-to-date information in the description. Check there if you want to grab one of these. Otherwise, GameTech probably has them. They're the like primary distributor of these things, primary seller of both kits and consoles, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Just check the description. All the good stuff will be there. So anyway, thanks Marshall for making this really, really cool kit. I'm gonna have to buy some more N64 games so I can actually utilize it. Other than a copy of Rush, which is actually a surprisingly good game. Shut up, Brett. And a copy of Pocket Monster Stadium that I can't understand anything in. But as you can see, my console takes both carts now nicely, which was the goal, so there we go. Anyway, I'm done rambling. I need to go get this footage ingested and edited and uploaded, and I will catch you guys next time, I guess. Thanks for watching. Keep on being awesome. Or something, I don't know. I'm not the police.